What's good, Regis recipients? How are y'all doing today? Let me know in the comment section. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Regis Reflections. Y'all already know each and every episode we have a different athlete on the podcast. And this week we got the man, the myth, the legend, Nate Burleson. Say what's up to the people, Nate.
Yeah, what's up, baby? What's going on?
That's good. So, Nate, before we get in, we have to ask, how is your mental health right now on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being the worst and 10 being the greatest.
I'm at a 10 right now.
Okay.
I feel really good, man. I'm in a good place. For me, a lot of my mental health is based around how people around me are doing, and that can be good and bad. But right now, it's really good because I see my wife, she is thriving in her businesses. My daughter is a sophomore in high school. She's doing well academically. She just made the varsity volleyball team and is starting. And she's also working with me as a correspondent on Nickelodeon. My two sons are in college, on track to graduate early, but also scholarship athletes playing football. I just went to visit them as they played against Penn State. We lost, but it was just good to see my two sons out on the field. And then I have just this ecosystem of people that are in and around my orbit, whether it's friends or coworkers that are here at CBS Mornings, NFL Today, Hollywood Squares, or NFL Slime Time. I have people that are also thriving that I either have a really close relationship with, I mentor, or I'm just there as a support system. So when everybody is winning that are in and around my life, it just makes me feel so much better about what I'm doing. Like my life and how I feel about myself, it's not determined by my success or how much money I have or what people may see on TV. How I feel about myself is typically tied to how well other people are doing. So I'm feeling good right now, and my mental health is at a 10.
That is good to hear. That's good. So it seems like you like having positive energy and good people around you to kind of boost you up, in a sense. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Yeah. I want to have positive energy. It's not just about boosting me up. I feel like at this point in my life, I need to be doing for others in order to feel fulfilled. I have lived two separate lives professionally. I played in the NFL for 11 years, and now I'm working in TV, going on 11 years. So for me, I've been blessed and highly favored in two very significant spaces. So selfishly, I could just live life and make it all about me and be selfish, as I get older. But what I've learned through experiences and also through some mentors, they told me like, once you really figure out success, you'll realize it's more about what you can give and offer than it is about what you're receiving. So like, it's more just about pouring into people. Like I want to make sure people are living their best life. Like when we talk and I met you, was like, yo, I want you on the pod. Zero hesitation. I was like, yeah, because I knew that one, you got a really dope energy about you. You're going to be successful in whatever space that you attempt to chase after. But more importantly, when you asked me, you were sincere. And I knew that it would put a smile on your face at the very least, let alone if people can extract something from this podcast and use it in their lives. So, yeah, it's just all about like just making people feel better and giving. Like that's what life is for me at this point in my career. I've lived a selfish life. Like I was young and 18 in college doing me. Then I was drafted at 21 doing me, living the life, still being a father and a husband and trying to support my family. But it was about me first. It was like, all right, I'm the one that's making the money so I can take care of everybody. Now it's a little bit different. Like I just have this very reverse gaze on life. I don't look at it from the lens of me receiving everything. I look at it from the lens of how can I make other people live the best version of their lives? Like that right there is a definition of success.
Wow, I like that. It really feels like you fall in the Christian ways of, not only making sure other people are good, but just kind of, in a sense, boosting other people around you, helping.
Amen to that.
And,
100%.
and so people can know you not for what you've done and what the impact that you left with them. Because the impact that you left with me when we met, I still tell my mother, my grandmother every single day about that. Just that small, that little interaction, 30 seconds, the impact that you left on me and it just stuck with me for all these months and weeks. So I found you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate you following up. You said you wanted to do the pod, so here we are, baby.
That's true. That's true. So, Regis recipients, as many of you may have heard or not know, Nate Burleson here has lived many lives. NFL player, now he's working in media. But before we get started into the professional, let's talk about your early career and early life. Now, many people may not know, but you are born and raised in Canada. Father played football from an athletic family. Brothers played football and basketball. Walk me through just the life of growing up in Canada and being in kind of athletic household and the competitive nature. How was that for you?
So small correction, and this usually gets misinterpreted. So I was born in Canada, but raised in Seattle. So my mom and dad had 4 boys. I was the only one born outside of the country. So my dad was pursuing his football career playing in the CFL after college, and my mom went to visit. So we were living in Seattle at the time. And when she went to visit, I came out a little earlier than expected. So I was born there unexpectedly and was only there during the infancy stages. And then we moved back to Seattle in the off season where my mom and dad lived full time. So Canada is where I was born, but Seattle, Washington is where I was raised. So I'm a West Coast dude through and through. But to answer your question, like one, just about the origins of like where I was born. The reason I'm so proud about being born in Canada, even though I wasn't raised there, was because that was the beginning of how I fell in love with football. Like the reason I am a football player, or at least a former football player, is because my dad played in the CFL. Like my dad, after college, he had an opportunity to play in the NFL. It didn't work out. I think he had a tryout with the New Orleans Saints. Then he played in the USFL and the CFL. Because my dad continued to pursue his dreams, I ended up like finding all of his old memorabilia when I was a kid. And I remember seeing all of this like CFL stuff. And I knew I was born in Canada, but I didn't understand why. And then I realized, oh, my pops was still playing professional football in the CFL. And that right there was the moment I told myself, I want to be like my dad. I want to play professional sports. So that's why, like, when people ask me about Canada, it's special to me because that was the end of my dad's career and essentially the start of me pursuing a football career. As far as like being raised in a competitive household, I had 2 older brothers. We went football, basketball, football, basketball. We all played multiple sports growing up, but once we got to high school, we all kind of pick and chose our path. My oldest brother, he went to the University of Washington. After that, my brother Kevin went to the University of Minnesota. I went to the University of Nevada, played football. My little brother went to the University of Nevada, played basketball. So my mom and dad, from humble beginnings in San Francisco, my dad from one of the most notorious projects in San Francisco, Sunnydale Projects, they were able to raise 4 young men, all went to college, and all played multiple sports. And they worked full-time jobs while trying to support us and show up for our games and tournaments. So the household was very competitive. We fought for just about everything, whether it was food on the table, wearing each other's clothes and ripping them off, or just straight up boxing matches. And my dad had boxing gloves in the house. He was like, y'all got a problem? They put the boxing gloves on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were always into something. And I feel like the reason I was able to become the athlete that I was, one, my parents, they put us into everything and they allowed us to chase these specific sports we played. Me, it was football, basketball, and track. But for my brothers and I, like every day was a competition. Every day was, let's go race, let's go to the park, let's go play football, tackle football, let's box, let's do karate, whatever it was, we did it. And that made me who I was. So when I started playing football or basketball against older guys, it was nothing to me because I was sitting in the house getting beat up by my big bros. So yeah, that household is something I'm forever grateful for. And I'm blessed because my mom and dad are still alive and they're together. A great example of what Black love looks like. And then my brothers, we're as close as ever. So anytime we get together, it's like old times.
Mm, wow. I mean, so you're saying that you were playing multiple sports, basketball,
Yeah.
football, and your siblings played as well, and your father played in the CFL. So during those times, even at an early age, did you lean on your family as well during those sports? Did you talk to your father a lot about football, asking him about questions, or leaning on your brothers kind of to, learn about the game and how to approach it in a sense?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, just like any other young kid or teenager, I was a knucklehead and thought that I knew everything about the sport I was playing. Most teenagers are stubborn. So I
Mm,
wanted to do it my way. And I didn't want to be like my big brothers, even though I did everything like them. I wore
mm,
the flat top like them. I played the exact sports as them. We all looked alike. We were like the Wayans brothers of Seattle. Like we were deep and we all looked alike. But I wanted to stand out. Like if my brother was a shooting guard, I wanted to be a point guard. If if my brother was good at math, I wanted to be good at art. I always found a way to separate myself from my brothers because if we just stood in a lineup, you would think we were the same dude.
mm,
So that was like my way of like trying to create a distinction. Like my oldest brother, he played defensive side of the ball. I was like, you know what? I'm going to play offense. Just because I wanted people to see me as, um, you know, a, a different version of a Burleson, not like the same copy and paste. But my dad, though, I have to give him credit because when I first started playing football, I didn't like it. I was tall and I was skinny. And when you're tall, they put you with the taller guys or the heavier guys.
mhm,
But the misconception is like all tall guys, all heavy guys are hitters. I was not that. Like I was a basketball player. I love basketball. And I only played football because I watched my older brothers do it. I knew my dad was a football player and my friends played.
mhm,
And then when I got out there, I'm like, this is not for me. I hate the heat. I hate hitting. And then when they would put me in these drills with the other tall guys or strong guys on the team, I was getting cracked. Like my frame was getting folded up. And I would just act like it didn't hurt and I'd continue to practice. And I remember playing 89ers and then playing after that and playing after that. And then I came to this like crossroads
mhm,
where I was going into the 8th grade. I'd already played a few years of tackle football. We didn't have flag at this time. And I remember getting ready for the season. I'm all hype. I got my pads. My dad went and bought cleats and my helmet, everything. I'm ready to go. And we pull up to practice like 30 minutes from the house. And I'm looking out at those guys running around, sweating, and I'm thinking about taking them hits. And I look at my dad. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to go out there. He's like, What do you mean you want to go out there? Like we pay for the 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 team,
mhm,
the fee. We pay for the uniform. We pay for the pads, the shoes, the helmet. What do you mean you don't want? I'm like, I don't want to play football this year. I'm sorry, Dad. And I could tell he was so disappointed.
mhm,
Not because I wasn't playing. I think he was just disappointed that like he wasted all of his time. He's a parent. He working full-time job, got 3 other sons he got to worry about. And I'm over here wasting his time. So so then like I go to school and everybody's talking about practice and we already got a game. We got the scrimmage coming up, the jamboree, and oh man, the little cute girls are out there. And I'm like, oh, I'm missing everything. I'm in 8th grade. I got the FOMO crazy. And I remember like 2 weeks into like the season,
mhm,
dad comes home from work and I'm like, yo, dad, like, I want to play. My bad. Like, I want to play. I was tripping. I want to play. Take me to practice. We go all the way to practice again. I look out there, they sweating and all that feeling just overwhelmed me. It's just like I'm not in love with the sport.
mhm.
And I did it. And I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, Dad. I changed my mind again.
I
And
get
I
it.
could tell he was so mad. Listen, as a parent, I get it now. Like, I get it. I understand. In that moment, oh, my dad had to be fuming.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, Dad, like, I don't want to play. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I brought you out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's like, Nate, we're not coming back. We go home. You are not playing this year. We're not playing football. Period. I'm not going to drive you back out there so you can change your mind again. I'm like, all right. I'm surprised he didn't curse me out, but he kept his cool. We drove back home, quiet car ride. I'm just staring out the window. And then we get in the house, and I didn't play that entire year. Now, here's the thing. This is why I say I got to give him credit. It's
Mhm,
because he could have forced me to play. My dad could have been like, get your butt out the car. Like, get out. He could have opened the door and been like, go. And I probably would have did it. But there might have been some reluctancy in me that forced maybe a rebellious spirit where
Mm,
I just I might have like hated football because of my dad. In a young mind, I would have made myself believe my dad forced me to play.
mm,
That's because a young, immature mind is not thinking, no, I wasted my dad's time twice, and really it's my fault. But so he didn't though. But my dad didn't. He was like, all right, when I bring you back out there. So I'm always thankful for that because that could have went bad if I would have went out there and just hated football and I would have never played the sport again. And in reality, athletically, I was meant to play football. Even though I love basketball and I love track, I was meant to be a football player. So I'm thankful that my dad didn't force me to play. And it just so happens, 8th grade year goes by and I miss it. Like I miss it. And I can't say anything because my dad already told me, like, look, we're not going to back out play. So every week, my guys, my friends, my buddies are talking about it. I'm coming home and I'm not bringing it up to my pops because I know it'll trigger him. So 9th grade year comes around. I try out for the team. I'm like, yo, I miss it too much. I'm going out there and I'm playing, and I never put the football down since. So like that 1 year of me stepping away from the game,
mm,
it really put things in perspective that I really love the sport. And like more than any lesson that my dad has taught me, which he has, more than any like coaching he's done before or after a game or a car ride home, more than any of all of those things, him not forcing me to play that year, I think allowed me to find whether I missed it or not versus my dad forced me to play because he's living vicariously through me.
okay, I understand. I understand because we see a lot of parents, they try to force their kids to live out their sports dreams.
No
That
doubt.
and I see it because my father played soccer, but he never wanted me to play soccer. I switched and did basketball. So it was kind of
Mm,
understand of, and I praise your dad for doing that. I think he may have done that on purpose. Even God took a step back so you could find the love and the
yep,
passion for the sport. And then you
yep,
could come to him as a whole saying, like, I want to pursue this and this is why, in a
yep,
sense.
exactly, exactly.
So shifting into high school, in Seattle, I was very new to Seattle sports, very not known, but you went to
Yeah,
Pound High School, Odeya
no
High School.
doubt.
Shout
Yeah,
out Paulo Banchero, went
yep.
out there, did basketball and football.
You
And I
did
know
your research.
you
Yeah,
you mentioned earlier saying you knew, watching your dad play in the CFL that you wanted to play football. And going fast forward to those high school years, you did track at Odeya, you did football. Was there a certain year, practice, or game or moment where you said, I want to take football to the next level for sure?
mm,
Definite moment saying,
that's
I want to.
that's a really good question. I love basketball. Like truly, basketball is my favorite sport. I just grew up watching '90s NBA, and I think that's the best era NBA ever. And and but I'm 6'1". I'm 6'1" and some change. Play point guard. I was an all-state point. But 6'1" and some change on a basketball court is short. 6'1" and some change on the football field with cleats is tall. So essentially, like I put cleats on, I'm 6'2". I'm a tall receiver. So I remember like trying to find like who I was on the football field. And my junior year, I felt decently confident.
Mhm,
My senior year comes around because at this point I've been playing 3 sports year round since I was, you know, 11 years old. And I just remember showing up my senior year and feeling like I was one of the most athletic guys at the school and in the city. And I felt like if I played basketball, I was going to be really good. If I ran track, I'd be really fast. And if I was on a football field, I'd be dominant. Um, but I didn't go to a team that threw the ball a lot. Even though I was a wide receiver, I went to a team that ran the ball. Like O'Day ran the ball a ton. I only had, I think, like 16 catches my senior year, but I had 7 touchdowns.
wow.
So basically, almost every other time I touched the ball was scoring. So teams they took notice. They're like, oh, he's an athlete. He plays multiple sports, and he plays receiver and DB. And I remember a couple of teams coming and recruiting me, and they're like, look, we don't know if you're a good receiver because you guys don't throw the ball enough. Um, but we do know you're an athlete. So we're going to offer you a scholarship. You can come here and play wide receiver or DB. We just want you to come to my school. Then another school came in and said, you can come to our school and play wide receiver, DB, and go out for the basketball team and play point guard for them. That's when I started to see myself differently because as much as I might have thought I was decently talented, it's not until somebody else that is recruiting you tells you how talented you really are. My parents always told me, even my brothers and friends, but like when an outside source comes in and
Mhm.
they say, "Hey, you're gifted," that's when I realize, oh, football is it. Because I don't get these types of compliments playing basketball or running track. People say, "Oh, you're a good basketball player. Oh, you're really good at hurdles." But when they talk to me about football my senior year, they oftentimes like they kept mentioning this potential, like there's room for growth. And that's when it hit me like, oh, like I haven't reached my peak. Like I'm still growing and getting better in this space. I have more potential to be an even better athlete once I get to college. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow, wow, interesting. So I know going with the recruiting process, you wanted to, follow your father's footsteps and go to
Yeah.
University of Washington,
Yeah.
continue there, but unfortunately, they didn't offer you an athletic scholarship, and you ended up going to University of Nevada. So, what was kind of, your mindset when you didn't hear from your father's alma mater? Were you like upset, or were you just kind of following and trusting God's plan, saying He's going to take me and put me in the right place at the right time?
I was sad. I was sad for real because they had lightly recruited me. They brought me there on like the recruiting day where it's all the local athletes that are pretty good. And we go sit in the stands and we watch the game. And my brother was on the team at the time. So I'm like, oh, this is dope. And they're talking to me about how they're going to offer me a scholarship and we want you to stay here. And then a new coach comes in. And then that coach sends a letter out to me like 2 weeks before I'm supposed to get this official offer.
Mhm,
The letter reads, Nate Burleson, hey, I'm Coach Neuheisel. I just took the job as a head coach for University of Washington. Just want to let you know that I'm aware that we are recruiting you. I brought over my own set of recruits, and your position right now is filled with the guys that I'm bringing over. So I am writing you to inform you that we will not be offering you a scholarship, but you are more than welcome to walk on at the University of Washington. And I was crushed. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was crushed because my dad went there, my brother was there, like it's local. Like I grew up thinking I was gonna be a husky.
mhm,
And I had to like quickly get out of my feelings and realize that there are other opportunities out there. And there was scholarships being offered, like you said, in Nevada, Idaho, a couple of the small schools, but they were scholarships. And people were like, you got to go to Washington. It's UW. It's a bigger school. It's a legacy program for you and your family. But then I'm like, I felt bad going and making my parents pay for college
mhm,
if there was a scholarship available. So I chose not to put that burden on them for them to have to pay for schooling when there was football teams willing to pay for it, even if the schools were smaller. So I went home and I pulled out all the letters
mhm,
that team sent me and I counted them out. And I don't know why I did this because now as an adult, I realize like team, the team, so Nevada sent me the most letters.
mhm,
And I'm like, oh man, Nevada sent me the most letters, man. Like big stack. And I'm like, so I'm gonna go here because they sent me the most letters, they recruit me the most. But in reality, they just spent more money on paper. Like I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea. It was Nevada and then it was Clemson for basketball.
mhm,
But I didn't want to play basketball for 4 years because I just being a point guard, it was too much pressure. I just wanted to be a wide receiver, sit on the outside, occasionally catch a football, be a hero when we win. And when we lose, they're probably not going to blame me. They'll probably talk to the quarterback or somebody else. So I chose Nevada and chose football. Um, but I quickly just had to realize, like, you know what? One door closes, another one opens. And Nevada was that open door. And I remember when they were recruiting me, we were sitting there in my living room and the head coach of Nevada was like, how many catches did you have your senior year? I'm like, "Oh, this past year, yeah, I had like 16 catches. We run the ball a lot." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we know. We just want to ask you, because 16 catches, we can give you that in one game. We throw the ball a lot." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, man. Last year we were fifth in the country in throwing. Year before that, we were fourth in the country. We're gonna throw the ball. We'll get you 16 catches in the game." And I'm like, "Where do I sign?" So, so then I ended up going to Nevada, and first year I set out
mhm.
some NCAA um, compliance issue. That wasn't my fault. It was a clerical error with the schools, with high schools that I transferred in and out of. And then my second year, decent year, And then my third and final year of college football, that's when I broke just about every record at Nevada, which in large part wasn't due to my own physical gifts. It was divine intervention for sure.
I don't know. So that transition period from Washington and Odeya to Nevada, sitting out your first year and second year, what is kind of your thought process throughout the whole time? And how was that transition from high school in Washington to now at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I transferred from Lindbergh High School to O'Day High School, and I didn't take my gym class because at Lindbergh, the public school I was at, you don't take it till your sophomore year. I transferred into O'Day; they all take it their freshman year, so I just missed gym class.
Right.
So I passed my SAT, I graduate, I'm cleared by the NCAA. I'm good to go. I get offered a scholarship, I sign, I'm good. I get to college, I'm set to play my freshman year. They're like, yo, we're going to get you out of the field, give you a little taste of it. And then the NCAA comes in. They're like, yo, you can't play. He's missing a credit from high school. And we're all confused. Everybody's confused. I'm confused. The university is confused. My parents, schools. And then they're pouring through all of these transcripts and they're like, oh, he's missing one class. And I'm thinking it's like, chemistry or algebra. I mean, something significant. Give me Spanish or history. They said gym class. And then we realized like, oh, because one school did it early, the other school did it later, and then I just missed gym class.
Mm.
One semester of gym class. I'm playing 3 sports a year in high school, and they are holding me out for gym class. So I was so upset because they couldn't. It was one of those things that they could clearly look past. But the
Mhm.
NCAA at that time, they were so strict that they were just like, any issue, they're just going to make sure you sit out. So they were like, look, you got to sit out. And if you want to fight it and argue it, like we really could take your scholarship because you're essentially not eligible to be in college because you missed gym class. And as frustrating as that was,
Mhm.
it was a blessing in disguise because I wasn't ready to play. I was a fresh baby face 18. I stepped foot on college campus at 17 and
Mhm.
turned 18 my freshman year. And that year, I just physically I wasn't ready. Mentally, I wasn't ready. But it forced me to watch the game from a bird's eye view and also just like work on myself. I got in that weight room, tough. I lifted like I never lifted before. I put on muscle, put on strength. I was running faster, jumping higher. So by the time the sophomore year came around, I actually was able to play for the first time. I was a different version of myself. I was a beast.
Mhm.
And I put up like 50 catches, 40 catches. And then those 2 years were like the appetizer to what my record breaking year was, my junior year. And that's when everything really changed for me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So that junior year was kind of like your pop off in a sense. And, you were getting ready to go to the NFL. And fast forward to the NFL. So you weren't a first round draft pick coming out of college, but you ended up putting together an 11-year NFL career. How did being overlooked in the beginning fuel the way that you approached the game?
I'm gonna answer that, but I want to get back to one thing I think is important, especially for your audience.
Mm.
Um, that year that I broke all those records, I keep bringing it up because I don't want to receive the praise for that. Like I want to deflect and make sure everybody's very clear about the fact that it was all God that gave me the ability to do what I did that last year. That last year, I had 138 catches. At the time, that was the second most catches in NCAA history. The school did indeed give me more than 16 catches in one game. One game, I had 19 catches. They threw it to me 21 times. I really caught the other two, but the refs were just like, oh, you bobbled them. So I was playing at a completely different level.
Mm.
Now, here's a couple of factors. One, I worked out more than anybody. My previous offseason to that record-breaking year, I worked out with the team, and then I would go separately and work out with a trainer. So my body was in a pristine condition. It was the fastest, strongest I've ever been up until that point. Now that's the physical. Mentally, I understood clock is ticking. I got to lock in. I got to be more focused than ever, academically and athletically. So when I was in a classroom, I was getting my work done. When I was in a classroom of football studying my opponents, I was smarter with the way that I approached each game. So I got the physical, got the mental, now the most important part. And this is the reason why I was so successful. And this is the reason why I broke all those records that year. The spiritual.
Mm.
That year, it was a group of guys on the team. We held the Bible study. for each other. We also worked at the church. And when we worked at that church, we would hold a high school Bible study for younger people. And I remember making this pact with myself that I was going to be as pure as possible. The word purity just really rang in my head over and over that year. And I want to be pure in my thoughts, pure in my intentions, pure in what I'm putting in my body, pure in what I'm downloading in my mind, in my soul. I'm a big hip hop head. I remember throwing away we had CDs at the time. I threw away every CD that had a curse word on it because, they were just saying like, um, biblically,
Mm.
there's the spiritual and the physical. So there's the flesh and the spirit. And, I've always been taught the one that you feed the most, that's the one who's going to win. There's two types of wolves inside of you, the spirit and the flesh. The one you feed the most will be the one that is the one people see. So I didn't want to listen to all the same things that could sit in my spirit. So I threw away all my CDs. My girlfriend, who is my wife now, Atoya, girlfriend at the time, we decided to not have sex. We were like, you know what? When it's 10 o'clock and we want to hang out and chill and cuddle up, which is going to lead to temptation because we're both young and in college. And it's that time when you really want to be physical and do all of those things. Um, we would go our separate ways. She'd go to her house, I go to my house. Um, we just didn't put ourselves in that situation
Hmm.
because I wanted to be spiritually sound in my walk with God, and that's going to take abstinence. And also, like when it came to, I wasn't really a big smoker, but drinking and partying on the weekends, I didn't drink either. So all of these things I was cutting out of my life, which gave my vessel the purest form it's ever been in. So whatever I was doing academically, because there wasn't junk or trash in my mind or spirit, I got it immediately. When I was watching film of my opponent, it was like I was Neo in the Matrix. Like I wasn't even seeing the players. I was seeing X's and O's. So when I actually got on the field, it was easy. There were times where I would go week by week by week in practice, I was cooking. And then game by game by game, they would go by so fast, I couldn't even tell you the specific plays or how it went or how many yards I. One game, the game I had 19 catches, I'm in the like fourth quarter and my teammates like, yo, you're 2 catches away from the record. I'm like, what record? They're like, record for catches in a game. I'm like, I don't even know how many catches I got. I got like 11 or 12. He's like, you got 17 catches. What do you? The reason I bring that up is because, as I mentioned before, divine intervention. Some people talk about runners when they get in a runner's high, or when you're a bike rider and you're really in the zone, you're like on autopilot,
Mm.
or when like a basketball player like Steph Curry is shooting, it's like the rim is as big as the ocean. That season, my autopilot was the Lord as the captain of my plane, and yeah, all of these other things I helped. Like God is going to help those who help those who help themselves. But like, yeah, I was physically ready. I was mentally ready, but spiritually, I was as pure as ever. And that's always a lesson, not just for other people, but also for me. I
Mm.
can reference a time in my life where my walk was the purest and life was the easiest. The most difficult thing that people see as football, like that is a difficult sport. The year I was the most focused in my walk was the year I was the most unstoppable in football. It was the year that academics became the easiest. All of the junk that we put in, what it taught me is all the junk that we put in our lives are just blockages that keep us from reaching our fullest potential. So I wanted to bring that up because I think somebody needs to hear it. And
Oh,
oftentimes I have to retell that story because I need to hear it and lock back in.
exactly.
But getting back to your question of the NFL, yeah, being looked over, I knew every receiver's name that went before me, and I didn't forget it. And I didn't hold a grudge against them, but I held a grudge against the teams that passed me up.
And do you use that did you use that motivation in a sense throughout your career to push you to be better in a sense?
Yeah, it did. But it's a slippery slope because you don't want that like anger or frustration to consume you. You don't want like that. To look at it like that. that black stuff that takes over venom. Like you don't want it to just like encapsulate you, and now you're walking with that every day.
Mm,
Like it's hard. There's a lot of people I play with, they take themselves to a dark place. They get real angry. They think about things that are sinister. And then they go out there and they play football. It's hard for me to do that. Like I'm a jovial person. So I can't operate in anger and hate and that really intense like frame of mind. Like I like to have a smile on my face when I'm doing what I'm doing, even on the football field. Now don't get me wrong. Things get heated. Yeah, I can talk my talk. You know what I mean? I'm not a saint. Yeah, I've said a few things on a football field that I wouldn't say outside of it. But yeah, I try to use it when I can. But more importantly, I just realized playing in the NFL was precious. And people would like literally give a limb for it. Like there's a large population of men that if I said, hey, yo, would you give me your pinky toe to play in the NFL? Man, they'd be like, take all my toes. You know what I'm saying? Like this, people really love this sport. So understanding how blessed I was to be playing it and to be getting paid, like that made me like a little bit more aware. Matter of fact, I was hyper aware of how special and blessed I was to play. So that was more the motivating factor than anything. Like
mm,
just showing up every day and I'm like, yo, I'm getting paid a lot of money to play a sport that I played at recess when I was in elementary. That's a crazy thing to say. And I'm living the dream. So every year I would do that and be thankful. Year
mm.
2, year 3, I'm like, man, I'm still here. Year 4, year 5, another contract. Year 6, another contract. Year 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm like, yo, I heard the average was like 2.5 years. And now I'm at year 10 going on year 11. I just felt like I was so blessed. So
Mm.
I've always been thankful for the opportunity.
That's true. That's true. Glory to God. And I want to take you back to the point where you were talking about the story of, how you really tapped in with your spiritual level and
Yeah,
just reaching that. I thank you for just telling me that and sharing that story, not only for the viewers, but just for myself, being a young African American college student, seeing all those temptations. We see that the
they're
devil,
everywhere.
he's trying to get you. The devil's trying to get you, but God is telling you, if you stick with me, stick to the course, I can take you places that you've never been. And it's just honestly, hearing about it is different, but just physically seeing it, I've been watching you, playing in the NFL and just hearing the story, it really just motivates not only me, but I hope the next generation to really, give your life to God and really so he can take you to the next level because he will do unimaginable things for you. Like in a million years. Now you can tell me 10 years ago that I would be sitting here at the University of Notre Dame, in every
Wow,
million years. But now I'm here last year college and I'm here not an athletic scholarship, full academic scholarship, all
amazing,
God. So it's like I just want to
amazing.
you and praise you for that. And that point that really stuck with me and hit me home, especially my grandmother being a preacher and everything. Growing up in the church, it really just kind of resonates in a sense.
Yeah, it's listen, it's true. When you surrender and you allow God to work in your life, um, God's going to open up doors that you never thought were even possible, that you never even thought existed. And if you're patient enough, every single hope and dream will be answered. Now, it might not always be on your time, as we all know, but a patient follower of Christ is someone who is always going to win. And then if you attached like that pure approach to everything, it just makes like when we really think about it. Listen, there's just certain things that we can't control, certain
Mm,
circumstances we come from, certain circumstances we live with. There are certain things that we have to deal with, whether it's how you were raised, trauma that has come with you through your bloodline, or what you have seen, or what you were exposed to as a young person. But there are things that we can control in our own walk, and once we do that, like once we control our own actions, God recognizes that, and He's like, "All right, my good and faithful servant, I see you. I see you. Now let's go. Now you're ready." And every single time I locked in and made sure my walk with God was as strong as it needed to be, he would open another door, wide open. And it's not even one of those things where I have to be confused about walking through it. God is like, here you go. Isn't this what you wanted? And I have to remind myself, I'm living exactly what I prayed for. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And 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 on the flip side of that, I realized every time I've stumbled, knocked my head, fell down, um, made a host of mistakes, I realized they're all self-induced. Like, so, like, the reality is, like, it's either going to be me getting in my way
Mhm.
or me getting out of the way so God can be in the lead. It's two things. It's not one or the other. It's two. Even though it happens, try not to be lukewarm with
Mhm.
my walk, because when I'm on fire for the Lord, like I said, life is on easy mode.
That's true. That's true. Give your life to him. Give your life to him. So, touching back in the NFL, quite frankly, injuries and setbacks are a part of almost every NFL career, and
Yeah,
you had your share of them. So, looking back, what did those moments teach you about resilience and bouncing back?
man, it taught me that you have to be anchored in something other than the current thing that you're doing, because if you get a setback in something that you really love
Mhm.
and you are not anchored um, anchored in your faith, and you also don't have other options, you will be in a dark place. What happens with a lot of athletes is once they're injured, they start embracing the reality that their bodies will never be the same. And maybe they'll never get another contract or be as good, or they won't get the cheers. They won't get the praise. They won't score another touchdown or make another tackle. And then that starts to sink in, and it's too heavy for them because they're like, yo, I've been doing this my whole life. Now all of a sudden my knees don't work. I can't jump as high, run as fast. What's going on? What am I going to do? Who am I? But if you're anchored in your faith, and then you also have other options, a plan B, a plan C, you will you'll be okay. You'll get through it.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I learned in that moment is having like a backup plan to the backup plan, along with my faith and my family. It allowed me to get out of these dark spaces sooner than later. Listen, any injury is a significant injury. I've had a ton. ACL repair. I tore my PCL. I broke my right leg, got plates and screws in there. I got plates and screws in my arms, separated both shoulders, dislocated my sternum. I broke a rib, broke my nose, broke fingers, broke my thumb, broke my ankles. I've had it all. Multiple concussions. So anytime you get an injury, it's going to literally put you in isolation, because that's really the only way you heal.
Mhm.
You're in the hospital with family and friends and the doctors, but there's moments where it's just you. You're in rehab with the doctors and the team, but then there's moments where it's just you. You're at home with your family, you're chilling, everybody's surrounding you, people are taking care of you, but then there's moments where it's just you. The isolation is what gets you.
Mhm.
But if you realize, like, one, I'll be okay with or without football, and then two, I might be in isolation, but I'm not alone. That's how you get through it. Um, and it takes time. The first couple of injuries, I was so young. I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna bounce back. You feel like Elastaman. You're like, I'm good. Like
Mhm.
I'm a superhero. That's how a lot of young athletes feel. And
Mhm.
then you do bounce back from that injury, and then you're like, oh, see, I'm lightweight invincible. And you start feeling yourself too much. And then my wife she would say, like, I would get injured and have to go in for a procedure, and they'd knock me out. And I'd be so comfortable with like the anesthesia and being knocked out. There's zero fear. I'm like, I'll see you in a couple hours, honey. Don't worry about it. And she was like, you're too used to like bouncing back. And I was. And then as I got older, I realized, one, I didn't want to be in the hospitals. I knew my body wasn't going to bounce back. And then once the procedure was over, you only could have so many injuries as an older player before that injury is your last one. And that's what happened towards the end of my career.
Wow. Wow. So, going off kind of the end of your career, we see a lot of athletes, they talk about the identity shift after retirement. What was that process for you stepping away from football and figuring out what's next for Nate Burleson?
I had so many things going on because, like I said, I heard that the average was 2.5 years when I first got in. So for me, I was like, you know what? I need to create a backup plan to the backup plan. So I had like clothing lines that I was doing. I
Mhm.
had a restaurant that I was doing. I was like writing poetry on the side, moonlighting as a ghostwriter for rappers and sending them lyrics. I linked up with my financial advisor to help athletes invest money. So I had all these different things. I could be a restaurateur or I could be a financial advisor. I can be an artist, or I can be someone who does clothing. And then there's coaching and all these other things that fell right in the mix. But what I realized is throughout my career, I always did something in media. In the off season, I would fly to LA on my own dime and I would show up at the NFL Network. Sometimes they put me on TV, sometimes they didn't, but it was more my way of just meeting people that were making decisions. Then also try to figure out if I really wanted to be on TV.
Mm,
And in the beginning, it was just self-serving. I was a receiver. I like to hear myself talk and look at myself on TV. You know what I mean? That was really the only reason in the beginning. And then for every team that I was on, I worked for their radio station, the local or regional radio station, or I did stuff with their local news. So essentially, since 2003, I've been doing something in the media space while I was playing. So that's over 20 years of me always constantly working in that space. And
mm,
then once I retired, I realized with all these things I got, restaurant business, clothing lines, helping athletes invest money, coaching, all these different things, I have to whittle it down, because if I was trying to do it all, I would have been good or
mm,
semi good at all of them. Instead of picking one and trying to be great at it, picking one and giving all of your efforts at it. So I did. I was like, all right, it's going to be TV, because I realized if I'm good at TV, or at least being on TV as an analyst talking about the game, or talking to your favorite celebrity, or working in news as a journalist and covering some hard hitting stories, I will be able to earn equity with the viewers and
mm,
the people that see me on a daily basis. And that was the path that I chose. It was to go into this space. And listen, I've always wanted to work in news. I've always wanted to work in entertainment. I love sports and I love football, but I didn't want to talk about football solely. I didn't want to do that forever.
mm,
So for me, where I'm at now, doing the NFL Today on Sundays, NFL Slime Time on Tuesdays, Hollywood Squares in the off season, and of course, CBS mornings, 5 days a week. This is exactly what young Nate wanted when he was younger. When I would sit in front of the TV with my legs crisscross applesauce, eating a bowl of cereal, um, this was what I envisioned. I was the kid in my household that watched TV more than anybody. I was sitting. My oldest brother was outside. The second oldest was playing basketball. My youngest, he was a baby, so he wasn't really watching TV. I was the one that sat in front of the TV every day,
mm,
looking at those characters, as I like to call them, whether it was game show hosts or local journalists, analysts, host of sports shows. Like, I'm like, one day it's gonna be me.
mm.
And football just happened to be the vehicle to get me here.
Wow, wow, you kind of spoke to existence, really manifested that. And you really worked your way in an industry that's really hard to break into, sports, entertainment, even news. So how did you kind of make that shift, you being an NFL player, football player, to now talking about football, but also CBS News, you're doing entertainment, music, you really open your portfolio. How did you kind of, prove yourself in that outside ground and, handle all of that pressure in a sense, learning the news and how news works and politics and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was strategic. I made sure when I was in and around the spaces where decision makers for these specific shows were, I would flex those other muscles. When people get around me, they expected me to talk about football.
Mhm,
But when I had opportunities to talk about finance or the restaurant business or my love for food or my love for art, whether it's paintings, poetry, or music, people started to realize, like, oh, like he does have a wide range of interests and he can talk about more than just sports. But that's just the beginning. You still have to get that opportunity. And when certain doors opened up, I was ready to take advantage. And then, in the beginning at CBS Mornings, like I was still trying to find not just my voice, but my position on the show, in the show, how I wanted to look and present myself. I remember I was very muted with like what I wore, because I just didn't want to like come in hot. And it took time for me to start dressing how I wanted to dress, and then interjecting when I felt like I needed to. Because initially, I just wanted to show respect. I'm like, all right, this is Gail's show, Tony's show. I'm the new guy. But then, credit to a few producers here. They're like, look, we hired you for a reason. We love the way you think, the way you approach certain topics. We need you to speak. I know you're trying to be polite, but no. The reason you're here is because people love the way that you look at certain things and how you can speak on them. And that was like a big shift in like this space. And also understanding like this is prime real estate. Being on CBS mornings, every show that I'm on. NFL Today, it is a foundational show here at CBS. CBS Mornings. This is one of the most highly respected news programs in all of media. So for me to occupy 2 seats on those shows that are anchors here at this network and across the media landscape, it's unbelievable. But I also understand that not everybody wants me in this seat, and not everybody thinks that I should be in this seat. So, like, you have to be realistic with how people see you. You know what I mean? Like, delusion only goes so far. Yeah, they say ignore the haters, but you also have to have a sense of reality that there are people that just don't believe it. And that's okay. I remember talking to Michael Strahan, who of course is at Good Morning America, one of the leaders in this space, and he etched his mark on the blueprint of athletes transitioning. And I picked that blueprint up, and I'm making my notes on it. But I remember talking to him about taking this show, and he was like, "Look, do you? Don't be me. People are going to compare us, but they hired you to be you, and that's why you're going to be successful. So be authentically you." And then he also said, "Keep in mind that not everybody wants you in that seat." And I'm not talking about just the people that are outside of your network. There's people that are at your network that don't believe that you have what it takes. So take that however you want it, but just understand that. And I heard it and I get it. And it didn't make me mad because in football, sometimes you get a contract and people are like, that dude's a bum. Like, he's not going to help my team. And what do? You either show up and show out or you validate how they feel. And for me, it's very simple. I could have shrunk in that moment and been like, oh my gosh, people don't want me here. Man, you know what? Imposter syndrome is setting in. Maybe I don't belong here. And then you'll see that every day on the show. And after a while, they'll be like, yo, he's not working. It's just not working for us. But for me, I went the opposite direction. I'm like, oh, they don't want me here. Cool. Let me show you why they hired me. And let me add value in every way. Let me work my butt off. Let me do everything from sports stories, societal issues. Let me touch on Black history. Let me talk to presidents. Let me talk to your favorite celebrity, actor, influencer. Let me create segments. Let me be involved in how we craft and put things together on the show. Let me pitch segments. Let me pitch interviews. Let me pitch sit downs. Let me be included in all of this. Let me add a little bit of value to this show that is Emmy worthy. And once you do that, regardless of how they feel about you, they got to respect you.
That's true.
I don't need your approval, but I will earn your respect because you can't argue with results. You just can't.
That's true. Results speak louder than anything. Well, so to touch back lightly, just to head back to the NFL, I wanted to ask, the locker room can be a very tough place when it comes to showing emotions and talking about struggles. How did you personally handle the mental and emotional side of the NFL?
Back in '03, when I first got in, there wasn't a ton of conversation about mental health, and guys didn't really talk about it. Uh, they do a better job of it now, and organizations offer safe spaces for these athletes to really unpack, all of their feelings, whether it's with a therapist or putting together groups of men that talk. Now, there's small pockets of guys that will get together and we'll hang out and just kind of shoot the breeze. But I felt like at that time it was still somewhat taboo, and not just taboo, but also how we mentioned we are a reflection of our own experiences. So if you're an athlete that comes from a household where you didn't talk about mental health on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, And you're not going to do that when you turn 21. I love my mom and dad. I love them to death. They are the best parents ever, but they were busy and they were working full time plus overtime. We didn't have the the sitcom or the Cosby moment where we sat down at the table and we went around. It's like, hey, how's your mental health? How are you feeling about this? We'd have general conversations, surface level conversation. Unless something really bad happened, we didn't really talk about it as often as I believe we should. And I'm not even blaming my parents.
Mhm.
They are just a reflection of how they grew up. My dad didn't even know his dad. So how was he supposed to be a mental health advocate when he didn't have a father that asked him about his own growing up?
Mhm.
So for me, I feel like as I got into the league, it was obvious who was raised around that and who wasn't. And from my own experiences, majority of the guys I played with just weren't comfortable talking about what was really going on below the surface. So we would internalize it, and that stuff would come out in unhealthy ways. And my advice to this young generation is that, find your village, find your crew, find your people. It could be another classmate, it could be a friend, it could be another teammate, it could be somebody you work with. Find one person or a group of people that you just can unpack things with. That's all it is. They don't need to fix you. They don't need to psychoanalyze you. They don't need to be your therapist. All they have to do is listen. And it's just as simple as unpacking. And once, you're able to do that, you're able to navigate, these murky waters of what we call adulting, better.
Wow. Wow. That really is good. That kind of leads really to my final question. Kind of what advice would you give to listeners and viewers on their mental health? And I know you said having a community and village, but is there anything else that you would really give to not only the younger generation, but athletes as well on their mental health journey in this new age and generation?
Yeah, I would say um, try to document how you're feeling
Mhm.
so you understand where growth is, but then also if you're reverting back to some negative spaces and negative places in your mind, um, because oftentimes we do have growth and we don't give ourselves enough credit for knowing that we have improved or come from level one and we're on level 10. And we still might have some mental health issues that arise and we're not giving ourselves enough grace. Speaking of that, give yourself grace. Like just just give it to yourself
Mhm.
first. I think majority of us are just good people. I think across the board, and I speak in generalities, we're good people. So whether it's, you know, hanging out with somebody at school or at work or driving in a car or opening a door when somebody walks by or and somebody not saying thank you or whatever it is. I feel like where we all live this like graceful existence where we offer up grace to everybody because we
Mhm.
want to be polite, we want to be nice.
It's
We
true.
offer it up to every single person more than ourselves. It's
Mhm.
like it's so hard. It's so hard to give it to ourselves, but we give it freely on a daily basis to everybody. So I would say
Mhm.
give yourself the most grace. And once you do that, you'll realize how much better you feel about the person you see in the mirror. And
Mhm.
that in turn is going to make you a better human to everybody else.
Wow. Wow. You preach it. You preach it. And to follow up on that, you taught me this when we met earlier, but I wanted to ask you, what's a
Yeah.
question that you wish that I asked you during this interview that I didn't address?
Oh, that's good.
I stuck with that. I always remember.
Um, hmm, I would say, um, what what is the definition or what was the definition of success at 21
Mhm.
and what is the definition of success for you now? I
Mhm.
think those two things really put in perspective how things change in our lives. You
Yeah.
don't have to be completely figured out. People people will oftentimes see me on TV and they're like, oh, he got it together. My dude's working at a high clip, multitasking, beautiful family. Everybody loves him. He's a good dude. Yeah, all of that may be true in your eyes, but at the same time, young Nate had a completely different view on the world. Still a nice guy, still could say all of those same things about him at that time, but what I thought success was then isn't what I think success is now. And the odd thing is, I changed my perspective on what success is now. And in reality, I'm more successful than I ever was. So when I was young, I thought it was just chase the money, get the bag. Like, because money is going to provide you a better lifestyle. And if you have a better lifestyle, you can make everybody else happy.
Exactly.
Money's the most important thing. And then now, like, if you're just a nice person, people want to work with you, people want to be around you. You encourage, you give, you support, you extend yourself, your resources. You live secondary to other people's needs. If you do all of these different things, success will find you. And people will stand on tables for you and validate you. And your names will ring loud in rooms that you're not even in. And you will start to get offered opportunities just off of the strength of your reputation. They say your reputation will precede you. That's both good and bad. So, like, whether you are someone who people hate being around and you are selfish and you're only out for the money or the fame or the praise, that is going to walk in the room before you. But if you are someone that just loves life and loves to love on people and encourage people and make sure everybody's eating at this table that you have created, that's going to walk in the room before you. And there's going to be people in that room that actually got a bag waiting on you. And that's what I didn't realize when I was younger. I'm too busy chasing the bag.
Chasing the best side.
And it's exhausting. And then I realized that if you're living a good life, people are going to bring the bags to you.
That's true. That's true. Wow, this has been really special. So one more question. This is my little football little fan. Who is the toughest DB that you faced in all of your career?
I would say Charles Woodson.
Charles
Woodson was different, man. Like, I remember one time he was like, it's like the tail end of his career. He played 3 different positions in 3 different plays. He was slot on the inside playing cornerback. And then he went and played safety. And then the next play, he was a DN. He was at the end of the line of scrimmage and rushed the quarterback. 3 plays, 3 different positions, and made a play every time. And I'm like, nah, he's a different type of animal. Like, so it was Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, Terrell Revis, and then shout out one of my close friends, Marcus Trufant in Seattle. Those are the guys that top my list that I faced.
Give him credit. I respect that. Thank you, Nate, again, for being on the podcast, talking about your journey, giving advice. We really appreciate it. Any last words to the Regis recipients?
I just want to say thanks for having me on, man. Hey, shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, have humility in every single aspect of your life, but not when you're creating goals. That's the only time you gotta be as cocky as you can, because I want your goals to be as grand and as large as possible.
Wow, thank you. Regis recipients, y'all heard it from my dog, Nate here. Nate, thank you again. And Regis recipients, remember, it's okay if you're not okay. It's your
That's
boy.
right.